This is Breaking Down Security, and I'm Brian Brake. Welcome back, listener. This is Brian and Mr. Betcher for Breaking Down Security.
Hello.
There you are. All right. So, Mr. Betcher, how are you been this week? You enjoying your last days at your old job and looking forward to that new adventure?
I am.
Very
Start
nice.
on Monday.
Yeah, it sounds like a nice company from what you were telling me. So, I'm only hoping for the best for you and your new colleagues. They're gonna be shot out of a cannon, so it's gonna be real nice.
Looking forward to it.
Yep. So this week we're bringing back a guy who really impressed us the first time we had him on, talking about active defense. It's Ben Donnelly. Created a company called Promethean InfoSec. Welcome, Ben, to Breaking Down Security.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, nice. So, what have you been doing? I know I saw you at DerbyCon with your friend Chevy there. I called him Chester earlier. Sorry, Chevy. If you are listening, Chevy, I'm sorry about that. So, what you been doing since DerbyCon? Giving talks, that kind of thing.
Well, I haven't given any talks since you saw me at DerbyCon.
Okay.
I have since then started my own brand new information security company with a weird name based on a mythological figure.
Yeah.
As you said earlier, Promethean InfoSec. And other than doing a lot of homework, I've been writing up some cool scripts and working on some projects associated with that are gonna be associated with my new company under the name of my new company. And to be clear, they're gonna be open source.
Very nice.
It'd be some sort of like corporate money making scheme. The company is a shield for me basically, and a name that I can release these things under.
Cool.
And so, yeah, I've been gym, been making some code, just living life. How have you guys been?
Well, I can't complain.
We've been working, man.
Yeah. We have real jobs. We're not. So how old are you? Wait, you're like 35 or so, right? Because only 35-year-olds like open companies and stuff, right?
21.
Oh God. I'm so old. I'm so old. Oh God.
So Ben, your company's called Promethean InfoSec. Wasn't that the Greek god who had his liver torn out every night, something like that? Well, is there any I get that visual? Is there any significance to that?
Well, see, there's a little bit of significance to that, and kind of just as a joke more than anything else. One thing I really like to do is I like to try and solve really hard problems. And if you guys are familiar with or remember me talking about ball and chain in the past,
Ball and chain.
That's a love of mine, is to take the problems that nobody else wants to take on and try and see if we can't come up with a cool out-of-the-box solution for them. And so Prometheus, in some mythologies, was a Titan, I believe. No, yeah, Titan, not a god, but a Titan who brought fire to the people, and then subsequently got messed up by Zeus and got tied up to a rock and had his liver pecked out by an eagle every day. So it's a bit of a joke, as I can see many scenarios in which I come up with a really cool script or a really cool idea, and this ends really badly for me when the wrong people find it.
Well,
yeah.
You brought the knowledge of fire. You're bringing the knowledge of active defense to the blue team. So somebody will be pecking out your liver eventually. And yeah, very nice, very nice. So you're an army of one at this company right now. You were telling us you were just incorporated, much like I did. I had to create a corporation for the podcast for possible sponsors and other things. Yeah, did you
spend a lot of money your first year or two and just write it off?
Yeah, everything's
right?
a business
Eventually
expense.
You have to show up.
Yeah.
It's cool, man. Just write it off, man. It's
business expense, like 10 boxes of Oreos.
Exactly. I got a Surface 4 coming next month. Business expense.
Nice.
Yep, exactly. So backtrack a little bit for those of the people who didn't hear about active defense. Maybe we could discuss some of the tenets of active defense. For one, like rule zero, active defense is not hacking the hackers. That's
That's
rule zero.
absolutely correct. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's what a lot of people what a lot of people think when they hear active defense is something along the lines of, well, we're gonna, it's gonna be like the movie Hackers, and there's gonna be, worms and malware flying in every direction like, pies in a food fight. And that's just not the case. Um, I like to liken it, and I think this is a pretty apt analogy, to a sword fight or a lightsaber duel, if you'd prefer. And you can imagine in a sword fight, if you just stood there with your sword up and waited for your opponent to strike at you, right? And you blocked, and then he'd strike again, and you'd block again, and he'd strike again, and you block again, and this continues and continues and continues. You would imagine that eventually you're probably going to get hit, and it's probably not going to feel very nice. Furthermore, your opponent is entirely emboldened by your refusal to strike back. Now, realistically, in the actual world that we're talking about, and not in the world of my analogous, my metaphorical sword fight, we're not going to be having you striking back and hitting back at the attacker and hacking back, but we don't have to. See, we don't have to stab the attacker through the heart and finish him off. We just need to knock him over. And that's actually, with the right finesse, the right skill, and the right placement, not all that difficult. So active defense is a term that, as far as I'm aware, was coined by John Strand out of Black Hills InfoSec.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been working on a lot of projects in the past. I was working at Black Hills InfoSec. Even now with my new company, we still have a deal between John and I where I'm going to be working on, obviously, my own stuff, but then continuing to work on the active defense projects at Black Hills InfoSec.
Okay.
So active defense is not really my baby, but it is kind of my love, if you will. This is what I do, and this is what I've been doing for about 3 years now, and I think it's great. We don't talk about things like hacking back. We talk more about things like finding attribution, right? And that is, in a way, a strike back at the attacker. But, well, we're staying within the legal constraints that have been placed upon us and are required of us to be considered good citizens. So, a quick overview in terms of attribution. We might get an attacker who is attempting to exploit a vulnerable website via a proxy by tricking him into downloading and then viewing on his local machine a Word document or a PDF or like a docx file or a spreadsheet or something that has within it embedded. And in this case, it doesn't actually have to be code that executes, but an embedded callback to a server, right, that we control, and then assuming the attacker hasn't done some sort of incredibly paranoid, like, unplugging his machine before he goes ahead and opens up our file, it's highly likely that the callback to our server would go outside of his regular HTTP proxy or maybe his Tor session or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we get to know where he's coming from. That is one very small example of what active defense can be. And I'm getting a little long-winded here, but to sum it up really quick, basically what active defense is it is the blue team operating against the red team as normal, but using a lot more of that attacker's mindset. We're not necessarily hitting them where it hurts at home, but we're hitting their attack. We're counterattacking.
Yeah.
Is that a good summary? Does that make sense?
No, that's good. I like that. When I explain active defense to people who are not savvy with it, I use the movie Braveheart. Where William Wallace is, on the field, and he's like, "They'll take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom." That kind of thing. And then the heavy cavalry from the English come up, and they're like, "Hold, hold," and then they pull the spears up, They don't do anything. They're not attacking. They're just letting the guys stab themselves with the spears. So that's how I consider, or I explain active defense to people. It's like they're not going out there to stab the horses. They're just holding the spears up and letting people hit themselves.
That is good. I might have to steal
No, feel free. It's public domain, I guess. So I saw.
Well, yeah, it's more like the zip bomb, right? You're hitting them back, but you're still within your legal bounds. They're the one who stole the document,
Yep.
and then they execute the zip bomb, and they're like, "Oh crap!"
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
You might just make them mad.
Yeah.
You
Well, I
never
mean,
know. Like Popeye taking the spinach, right?
that's right. That's right. So you've been working on a couple of new things since the last time we saw you. You were doing the ball and chain, and there was a second product where, if I remember correctly, it was if files were being tampered with on the system, it would make a backup and automatically shut the system down.
Crypto lock.
Crypto locked. Yes, it was not crypto locker. Crypto locked. Right. Right.
No, I'm not right, crypto locker. I promise.
Yeah. No, so you had that one, but you've also got this new thing called MAD, M-A-D, which is a recursive acronym for Mad Active Defense.
Yes.
And you have a GitHub for it, which we'll post in the show notes. You have one whole issue. Wow, you have one trouble ticket, I think, so far. Nice.
Right.
Nice. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about this and how it works, and what people could do with this if they're on the blue team.
Yeah, absolutely. And please, if I get long-winded or if you have any questions, feel free to interject. So MAD active defense. There's a lot that's covered in the README that's, that talks about, the fun I had naming this tool.
Mm-hmm.
But what is it? So active defense has for the longest time been seemingly kind of a collection of tools and techniques ascribed to the elite computer defenders, right? We have regular IT folks who every day are getting hit with attacks all over the place and who don't necessarily have the tools or the training to be able to actively defend, right? They can only do what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
A little while back, I went to a training, like a training weekend that John Strand was teaching. He was teaching a bunch of computer network defenders, and I watched as they struggled. I mean, and struggled is the right word, and it's not in any way offensive to them, to understand what was being taught to them. And that was simply because the level of training that they had had prior to what was now being shown to them had not prepared them for what was currently being shown to them. And it got me thinking. It got me thinking about what we could do to make this better, right? We already have the tools and techniques that can be used to actively defend our networks. That's a thing we have. But what we don't have is we don't really have a democratic solution, an ability to spread these tools and techniques rapidly and effectively to the people that need them most. In effect, we have consolidated the active defense power into the hands of a few. And personally, I think that's, if not wrong, a little bit lazy, right? So MAD is a framework decently akin to Recon NG and the Metasploit framework.
Mm-hmm.
A little dash maybe of the social engineering toolkit thrown in, that allows you to interact with it again in the same in a similar way to how those other frameworks operate, and deploy active defense tools, techniques, and, if you will, weapons on your network easily, simply. When I wrote this tool up, when I first wrote the interpreter, I loaded up the first module, I plugged in the first module into it, and I called my mother over. She was in the same room as me at the time, and I said, "Hey, Mom, check this out." Gave her about 5 minutes. I walked her through some of the basics. And to be fair, she's not an IT professional or anywhere near an IT professional, and she's never used Metasploit or Recon NG before. 5 minutes, and I had her deploying honeyports on our home network just
Nice.
by following the steps, setting the options, and running it. And that's cool. I mean, saying we have a new tool that, turns bad guys' computers into mush, I mean, that's cool. But then saying, hey, we've taken it one step farther and now my mom can do that to the bad guys, that's even cooler.
Yeah.
So
So this is Python based. Mad.py is the main console, and it does appear to be very Metasploit esque, which I'm sure a lot of people will find reassuring, because it's kind of like the framework that begat all other frameworks before it. So, um, how many? So it says here you're loading a module. So how many modules do you have that work with this, or is it extensible? Obviously, it must be extensible.
Ooh, okay. So that's a good question. It's first off, yes, it's highly extensible, and that's the goal. That's the whole point, is to be able to continue the development of this project rapidly in the future, so we can keep throwing new things and new ideas into it. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many modules we have currently because I keep adding more, and I haven't thought to sit down and take a count or anything. We have a number currently, and we're nowhere near done. So we're talking about this project like it's a released final project, and currently it's definitely released. It's not supposed to be in its final state. I went ahead and pushed it out in alpha in order to potentially, if I could, solicit modules from people. My hope was to get people on board with creating modules and helping me to get this project, further along the road without me waiting until I felt like it was perfect and then let's push it out and then maybe get more modules. My goal here isn't to, create the perfect framework to end all frameworks. My goal is to democratize active defense, and so that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Some of the stuff we have, I can go over some of the things we have and some of the functionality we have.
That's cool. You say you're democratizing active defense. A lot of people, at least in this country, would say democracy often fails because that too many fingers are in the pie. Is there any kind of oversight, or can anybody? Obviously, you can create your own local plugins, but to be added to the framework, there's got to be some kind of blessing or quality control in place, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything goes through me.
Nice.
Currently.
Okay. So it's democratizing active defense until it comes to the dictator and president for life, Ben Donnelly.
Well, I don't mean democratizing in that we're taking active defense and voting on what active defense is. I mean democratizing in the sense that we're taking something and giving the power to the people. That's the idea behind democracy, right? And we're taking active defense, the idea, the tools, the techniques, out of the hands of the elite only, and we're giving them to the people so that the people can do that too.
So so you said at the class that you were with that you saw people struggle. Is that because the concept of active defense is so odd, or is it just because that there's a lot to digest to make this work, or just people are not used to doing these kinds of tactics in the past?
So, okay, yeah, and that's a good question for, my personal analysis of what I saw. What I saw and what I've seen time and time again is that people basically fail on 2 points, or struggle on 2 points. The first would be the understanding of what it is exactly that we're doing, and that's obvious. When you're going in and you're learning a new tool, you're thinking, you're going, okay, what are we doing? All right, how's this work? Why am I doing this? Wow, this is cool. Things like that, and that's the idea behind the learning. That's the idea behind the training. Another thing that we bump into, however, and this is just universal, in open source, in Linux, and really anywhere, but this is my area. You notice that no matter how much time you put into learning, as much as you can about one area or field, the tools, the techniques, everything, they're all made by different people. They all come out slightly differently. And, every tool has a different flag that means a different thing, and there's just so much to remember. And so the second way that people tend to struggle, or at least the way that I've noticed people struggle, no matter how talented they are, is they struggle on, things like, okay, this tool, I've used this tool before. Let's go open up the documentation and read it again because I forget what switches I need to hit to get exactly what I want, right? I mean, we've all been there. And so I can make it as simple as possible for people to get the information that they need about the way the tool operates. And that's that knowledge, that's that training, that's that what am I doing, how am I doing it, what's the tool doing. The other thing I can do is I can streamline the interface as much as possible so that people don't feel a need to struggle and fight against the tool, right? The tool is ready and it communicates with them through the MAD interpreter. So.
Okay. Is some of it, oh, it's nice to learn these things, but now what do I do with it once I've learned this? It's not easy to take back and put into your own work environment. I mean, how do you solve those kinds of problems with active defense? I mean, it's easy enough to learn it at a week-long course, but then it's like you take it back and now you've got to deal with, you know, your old work instead of the new stuff that you've learned.
That's a very good question. Considering this tool is very new, I can't give you any, case studies of what that might exactly be like. My hope is that it will not be a problem. My hope is that people will be able to take these tools and they'll be able to see the use in them. They'll be able to use them. They'll be able to take this value that they've been offered and they'll be able to find ways to integrate it really easily into, their day-to-day operations at their job or whatever it is that they do. We're talking things like word web bugs, tracking documents. We're talking things like honeyports. Another thing that I'm currently working on, and it's been named. It's a part of MAD, but it also has its own name because it's highly complex, is Phantom. And Phantom is, when I'm done with it, going to be, as far as I'm aware, the world's first truly extensible defensive malware. And so the idea behind that, at least, would be to allow you to pretty much counterattack into, if you will, counterattack, if you will, into beachhead land segments, places where an attacker may have gained access.
Uh-huh.
And at that point, then, even though you're in, so you counterattack into a beachhead basically by deploying this malware back into your own network, which is something you have control over, right? And then you use this malware, which operates in every way exactly like malware, in that it's assuming that it is now going in, it is now the attacker tunneling, hiding, disappearing into a world where the defenders are the attacker, right? Rather than with our traditional methodologies and stuff, we're looking at stuff like antivirus, which the attacker gets in and he's like, there's the antivirus, let's turn it off. We're now assuming he is king of his beachhead on our network. And so we go back in, we go low and slow, just like he would go low and slow on us. And then we start deploying these active defense technologies. We start, issuing patching or whatever it is we need to do. We actually have a live, counterattack tool, right? It's
so let's talk more about this malware. Where will this be deployed? Will it be deployed on the attacker's machine, or will it be deployed on, say, your endpoint machine, something like that?
This would be for you. This would be for your network. My plan is not to create malware that's going to go and, again, hack back. This would be something you would deploy on your network. So if an attacker was to gain a beachhead, if you will, access to a number of machines, maybe on a sequestered LAN or LAN segment on your network, rather than going and trying to, get in through the traditional means or do things he might be able to detect and then block, or if he sees you coming, get out. We basically adopt his methodology, the attacker's methodology. The attacker's methodology plus all of the information, power, and control we already have over our own environment. And we play his game back against him, except we play it way better. We kick him off the network, or we get whatever information we need to get from his attack in order to gain attribution as to who the attacker is, right? Another use I envision for this tool would be things like network purges. I plan on making it so that it can be extended from one piece of malware via simple scripting techniques into what is basically a blue team worm. so that you could deploy active defense technologies across your entire infrastructure with the push of a button that clean themselves up automatically. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about this too much because it's not out there yet.
And I was also thinking, I'm probably not the only person listening to this right now and going, you probably shouldn't be calling it malware if it's goodware.
I know.
You can't be calling it worms because worms are bad things. So you might want to be, I don't know. You're going to have to get your marketing guy at your company to figure
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, worms are they're self-replicating, right? So you don't want that to get out and pull another Sammy.
You definitely
right?
don't want your Frankenstein to get out over to the internet, so your goodware then becomes malware. Actually, so
the goodware. How does it? I guess you already have admin, right? Unless the attacker changes it. Okay.
No, that's exactly.
Yeah.
You making this for Windows, Linux, Mac? I mean,
we currently have a very lightweight prototype that runs on Linux. Obviously, the hope is if I can just get some time where I don't have homework, we could get some versions out there for Windows and stuff as well. I basically do envision this as being kind of MAD's interpreter, if you will. It is in effect a way that you can, while sitting at your terminal in the IT department, reach out into the network and do what you need to do without having to go to some lengthy installation and migration process. It directly so the prototype that we currently have, I can talk about things we currently have. What we currently have downloads it you get it onto your system, and then it extends. It's an extender for MAD in that you send it commands, and it automatically downloads and executes the modules that are inside the local MAD framework for you on the remote host. Does that make sense?
So it's like the exploitation, and then you run post-exploit, to that so-called goodware, right?
There are a lot of companies that would like your goodware, especially if they're on incident response, doing active incident response and trying active incident, or active, decontamination of a network to have your software there to do that. You'll definitely have to come back when you get Phantom more fully fleshed out. Have you been talking to malware researchers who could give you samples of malware to test on these things?
There you go.
Because it seems like you would need to understand the tactics of the bad guys from what you're saying to be able to understand how to fix the bad guys.
Well, I haven't been talking to malware researchers in particular about this tool. I've just been trying to work as feverishly as I can on the functionality to get it to the point that I want to have it be at before I start, focusing on its behavior. It's still, it's not at the point where I can really be talking to it exactly about what I want its behavior to be, because it still doesn't have a fully formed brain, if you will. But
I figured out the name for it. We'll call it Intrusion Defense System. IDS. We'll call it IDS. Oh shit! No, that's already taken.
We could
just call it Madware.
Madware. Oh man, that's so good.
Pen pinning. Pen pinning. Pen pinning. Pen pinning.
Why didn't I think of that?
All right. So Ben, what's the future of MAD? Where do you like?
Where do you see
explain to me, say a year from now, what is MAD going to be capable of?
Where do you see yourself?
I know you explained it a little bit, but what kind of modules do you want in this? If you woke up from a dream and you're like, oh, that would be so awesome, right? If I added that, but of course you don't have enough time to get it all in. But what are some ideas that you've had?
And to add on to that, is there a template or something where if people wanted to make plugins or modules for you, they could download that and use that?
Yeah. So in terms of the template, we don't. So we don't have a module template. We don't have exactly that. What we do have is we have documentation for how the modules are created. Now I went, as opposed to maybe like a Metasploit, like exploitation module, I went ahead and went pretty loose with the way the modules are created. Basically, the modules are Python scripts, and they can do pretty much whatever you want. there is certain things you need to include in the script in order to make the script compatible with the MAD interpreter. And it's really that simple. And that's all documented on the GitHub repository under the docs section. There's a little markdown document on making modules.
Oh,
And
yeah. Okay.
it's not terribly hard. You just include you include basically the commands class that includes commands that actually execute the internals of the module, and then you also include like the variables and things, and you set them. It's not too difficult, and hopefully that's really that better be very accessible for anyone who wants to come along and make modules. At least that's my hope. And if it's not, I'll fix it. I'll make it more accessible.
Righto.
So, in terms of where I'd like to see MAD, what I envision, not in terms of functionality, but in terms of reach and scope, is something that every single blue team member, person, IT professional, anyone out there who's currently who sits down at a computer in the morning and thinks to themselves, what kind of attacks am I going to experience today? I want them to have access to this tool. They don't have to use it if they don't want to, but I want them to have access to this tool. I want them to know about it, and I want it to be the tool they turn to if they're thinking to themselves, oh, I'm in trouble, right? In terms of some of the functionality we already have, we have the document, we have the word web bugs, right? We have some detection scripts. So that's some new stuff. That's kind of a direction I've been going in, is weird. So actually, let me give you this. This is a thing I don't have yet, right? So weird detection scripts, thinking outside of the box in terms of detecting malware and things like that. Say you had access to multiple points of view about a machine on a network, and you were trying to determine whether or not that machine had maybe a kernel mode rootkit on it. There are things you could do where you could basically place an observer inside of the machine, as well as an observer somewhere else on the network, but in the flow path of the data from the potentially compromised machine out to the web. And then maybe with a little bit of manipulation, or maybe entirely passively, create a diff of what the two observers saw, right? And if you happen to see something different, especially something different that carried the signatures, and I'm using air quotes on signatures, but carried, something that might tip you off to the malicious intent, you could probably pretty reliably say, without ever really doing all that much, any scanning, any heuristic analysis, any, like deep digging through the kernel to find weird things wrong, you could probably realistically say, oh, there's probably some sort of rootkit on that machine. That's the kind of outside of the box, weird, not yet done, not yet standardized, not necessarily included in your AV or in your IDS or in your IPS kinds of thinking that I am already putting inside of MAD, and that I hope to put a lot more of in the future. The kinds of things that people will turn to say, you know what, this idea is weird, but in a way, it's kind of like a blue team 0 day. It's something the attackers won't be expecting. Does that make sense?
No, I like that.
Yeah, totally, man. So, if I could get off MAD for a while, Ben, you've been pretty successful in my mind, in the 3 or so years that you've been in InfoSec. What advice do you have for those who don't necessarily have a job in security, but there's something they are interested in within security, and they kind of want to break into the field? How do they do that in your estimation?
Sure. So I can tell you that what I did and the way that I kind of found my home, at least for the last 3 years, was kind of, it was luck more than anything else. And it was luck.
No,
I got
we don't want to
lucky.
hear that. Come on, man.
There's more. There's always
Okay.
more, right?
Luck is where preparation meets opportunity. Right?
Absolutely. Yes. The harder I work, the luckier I get, right? I'll tell you what. I was 18 when I found John at San CDI, and I bought my own plane ticket and I flew down there because I basically politely asked for an opportunity to compete in Net Wars with the fee waived. Um, I didn't go to prom. I didn't go out and party. I didn't drink. I I write code. I go on long walks and I think about um, problems on the internet and things that I could do to make the world a better place. I I love this. I love doing this, and it's not just a passion because sometimes I hate doing this, but I do it anyway because it's more important than me and it's more important than whether or not I'm currently absolutely loving it at the moment. I mean, this is a big deal. I see it, and I hope you guys see it too, and I hope anybody else who's listening who would be asking me for advice sees that we are right now mathematicians in the time of Pythagoras. I mean, this is it, man. We may not live in the future where we go fly to the stars and we might make jokes about how we sit on the internet and look at dank memes, but this is the time that will decide what that future looks like, and we are the people who will do it. I mean, there's no better way to state it. This is the most important thing, that I think I'm going to be able to do with my life for other people. Uh, I have to take it seriously, and I do take it seriously, and I spend a lot of time on it, and I don't try. And maybe you say I've been successful, but maybe in many ways I've failed. I don't try really to promote myself or things like that. I mean, if you remember Ball and Chain, and I make a point of this because I want people to know this, that is that idea, at least according to my understanding of the way intellectual property law works, that idea is public domain, and I did that very much on purpose. This is bigger than me, and it has nothing really to do with me. This is what the world needs. It needs tinkerers, it needs inventors, it needs thinkers, and it needs men of character, men who are willing to not be moved, men who can't be bought, men who will do the right thing no matter what. And that is even if the right thing is not epic, even if the right thing is writing a script that maybe one day stops an attacker from gaining access to a little old lady's bank account, and by doing so changes the world.
Very nice.
Think like that, whether or not you make it, you're going to do something important. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I that
Well said.
I wish when I was 21 I was as driven as you were. I was in the Navy, and you don't have much drive when you're in the Navy, unfortunately. Or at least I didn't. So yeah, that's
You are
awesome.
driven.
Well, I in the last 5 years I've become driven only because I've seen my own mortality. I'm over halfway done. So, um, well, that was great. We do want to have a short demo of Mad if possible. Is that something you can do for us? You can,
believe that is, I
can you
think,
hook a brother up?
basics.
All right.
So let's see.
Let me. All right. So when we get this started, I on the LogMD podcast, I put a little something in saying, hey, you can go and see the video online. But for those of you listening to the podcast now, if you do want to see the actual, pictures and things on the screen as they fly across the air, we'll have this up on YouTube in high definition. So let me start recording now.
And can you guys see the terminal window?
Oh yeah, you could actually probably shrink it down a little bit. I mean, it's going to be. It's good sized. So
Okay.
as long as it looks good when you post it up, that's fine. I mean, we can leave it there. Whatever works for you. Every
Okay.
time I do this, it's a new adventure. So
So this is Mad.
okay.
It's pretty simple. It's an interpreter. You've seen interpreters before, right? It takes commands. It does things with the commands. When you go into it, you step into it, you type in help. It gives you a list of things it can do right here. There's not a terrible amount of information about each and every command, but I hope that they're all pretty straightforward. One really cool thing is that even so, right here, my loading a module command is actually currently module, and I probably will end up changing that, but I kind of didn't want to overly copy other frameworks, even though in the end, like everybody uses the same verbiage to do the same things, and so you kind of have to.
Mm-hmm.
One feature that we have inside of MAD is command aliases. So even though the command to load a module is module, if you go ahead and type in something else, something that maybe comes from another framework, something that's embedded in you as muscle memory from your time spent in Metasploit or ReconNG or something like that, that's not a problem. The interpreter goes ahead and takes care of that for you. So, yeah, we got autocomplete. It's a decently on its own. It's an interpreter that's on its way. It will get there for sure, and it's not bad, and it works just fine as it is. So go ahead and load up a module, and you can see, there you go. There's the list of all the modules we currently have from the autocomplete.
Okay. So of course you've got honey ports, which is allows you to set poisoned ports. Anybody trying to do an Nmap scan on those will close that port and lock that IP address out, right?
Well, here, maybe I can deliver some more active defense knowledge.
Please drop some knowledge upon me.
Yeah. So we have honeyports, absolutely, and that's exactly what honeyports are. We also have a couple different flavors of honeyports. If you want to like accessorize your honeyports, right? We have the basic, which is what you just described. It receives a connection on a certain port, and when it receives a connection, it goes ahead and says, "Hey, how about the guy who disconnected doesn't connect to us anymore?" Pretty simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
We also have another module right here that runs in the background and runs on multiple ports at once with only one launching of a module. That's simple stuff. Over here we have two other ones, and they're both tools I wrote as per usual. These are different flavors of honeyports, and I'll let you guys pick if you want to see me try and demonstrate one. So in Visiports, it goes ahead and it blocks just like with a basic honeyport. But as it blocks somebody from being able to connect to any of the actual ports on your machine, it also creates a pre-routing modification inside the IP tables configuration that makes it appear to them when they do attempt to connect as though you are still online, and that you are. It also appears that you are displaying a certain port set. So that would be like preset.
Mm-hmm.
We can go ahead and load it up.
Yeah, let's do that one.
You can see, so here's your whitelist. Your fake ports, those are the ports that will be shown to an attacker after they connect to your honey port, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they'll see going forward. So you can set that up to look like anything you want, and then any data they actually attempt to send to those ports is just sent into a black hole. It just goes nowhere. But to them, if they do something like attempt to scan you, whether it's TCP Connect or a SYN scan or something, they'll see it as though you're online, and they'll just sit there wasting their time, confused as to why they can't FTP onto your FTP or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah,
pretty cool. It's pretty straightforward. You run it. Yeah, actually, yeah. I wish I had more of a demo because MAD is pretty straightforward. You set the things like the listen port, and then you just run it. So I can show you. We can list the commands associated with a module. We can run it, or we can run it in the background. Let's run it.
Oh, very cool.
And just like that, it's running. I don't actually know if I have a machine I have access to right now that I can blacklist safely. But
so you can run. Does MAD need a dedicated server, or could you run like a small instance or a Docker or an LXC or something like? No, was it Linux containers, or can you run it on an actual specific host, like a web server or something?
What do you mean, like a specific host, like a web server, like a hosted web server, as in like it runs in PHP hosted by like Arvix or GoDaddy, or that's not what you mean?
Well, you said it was you said it's a framework, so it would run on jiggle the wire. Okay, thank you, Mr. Betcher. So this is it's a framework that runs, and if you wanted to put it on your web server, your web portal, you could run MAD on your web portal.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so it's
It's just a little Python script. It can run anywhere you can run a Python script. It currently doesn't have any dependencies, and it doesn't take up a considerable amount of like RAM or anything like that. So,
Okay, cool. You said you didn't have access to another box that you could use to blacklist yourself, basically.
well, I mean, if you guys want to try and connect, you're more than welcome to get blacklisted.
I'll give it a try here. Let me bring up a terminal. All right, so let me pull this into. Oh wait, I want to pull my screen into. No, I do not wish to update at this time. ZSH, thank you very much. All right, I'm going to pull it into my screencast here so people can see what's going on.
So let's say you have 443 open. So I can connect to 443 just fine. However, if I try to connect to port 80 or 21, you're like, whoa, this guy's getting blacklisted. I can no longer connect to port 443.
Yeah.
But it looks like 80 and 21 are open.
Okay.
That's right. Yep.
So, all right. So, what's the IP address of the site, and what do I need to connect to it?
Yeah. So, 198.
198.
.199.
.119.
.103.
03. All right, and port 443.
The listen port, the one that it's waiting for bad people to connect to currently, is 278.
278. All right. So
what's a good port though?
I believe this is this port 80 should be fine.
Okay. So if
you can connect to port 80 right now just fine, right?
That should be my website for my new company.
Okay, so there we go. So I did a netcat to that IP address on port 278. It says, oh, it succeeded on that port.
Cool. And then you
protocol error. All right.
It is.
So let me try to connect again. Oh, it said it succeeded.
It should allow you to continue to connect on that port and that port alone.
Okay.
And I've just, if you guys are seeing my screen, I've just received notifications. That's right. There's notifications in MAD that actually tells me that you're connecting.
Right on.
I did that rather than just pushing everything to standard out, as many frameworks do, so that you could run a lot of tools at once, because unlike Metasploit, we're generally not working on one task at a time. We're basically using this to administer the defense of our network. And so we actually have a notification center. Let's go ahead and try and read those notifications.
So I just tried to connect on that IP address to port 80, and it did succeed, but then it had a protocol error.
So that's the protocol error, quote unquote protocol error. Message that I send to everyone who connects to the listening in Visiport's listener. So what you're seeing right there, the protocol error, air quotes, is a sign that it has succeeded.
Right on.
And if you want to try the 3 ports you should be able to see right now, the fake ports are 21, 80, and 445. So if you were to like nmap me or something, you would still see those ports up, and you would still see, like, oh, cool, he's still there. I'm gonna get him. Oh man, port 445. I'm gonna SMB him. Port 21. I'm gonna FTP him. And they're black holes. So.
Yep. Yeah, I have crappy Apple stuff, so it's automatically seeing port 21, 554, and 7070. But it does see port 80 as being open for me, but it doesn't show 2180 or 445. It doesn't show 445 at least, and I was doing a non-ping port check. So
okay, well, I'll have to make sure that it's working properly, just in case it's not. I've tested these here at home, but I'm getting some socket errors now.
Okay, it shows filtered right now.
Filtered? Okay.
Yeah. So you get to see this on the image. That's about the extent of my my knowledge is right there. So does it show the IP? Well, does it show the IP address of the host that was trying to get to your system like that?
I believe that is what I included inside of the notifications. And the notifications is just set as part of the module itself.
Okay.
That Just to be clear, what I'm speaking on here, the notifications are set by the module creator. They're not something that's set by the interface or the main interpreter or anything like that. Let's go ahead and so I'm Xing out of the module. Now we're going to go ahead and read the notifications, and I don't believe I did. No, I did not currently include your IP address in the output right there, but I did go ahead and say that somebody has been blacklisted, and that's
okay.
That's literally just if I want to. That's probably not a bad idea. Maybe I'll just go update the module tonight that it's at that.
Well, the other thing is if somebody's coming through a Tor node, then you're just really going to be blocking Tor node exits.
Sure.
So if you had some other method of attribution, then you could block everything from China or everything from Russia or from Liechtenstein. Where all the real hackers are in Liechtenstein.
Of course.
So yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty cool. And this is available, you said, in an alpha, basically. So if this is, if you enjoy your bleeding edge, then you can get in on this. If anybody wanted to help you out with source code, they just get a hold of you through your GitHub or through your Twitter to, offer up diffs.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a big project. I'm just kind of swamped with homework, and I'm trying every chance I get to try and get in here and get some new code written, but it's a pain. With all the stuff my professors are like, come on, do this, do this.
So what are you going to college for? Are you going for MBA or something, or?
I'm currently just trying to create my own quasi cybersecurity degree at the local college.
Right on.
Because they don't have one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, that was pretty nice. I like that. So Mad is available for download. There's no warranty. If it screws up your box, that's on you. Read the README on his site. I liked the little thing he made. Mad, its own little entity talking about his creator and who made him. So that was a really nice story and a discussion of how everything works. And Ben, if people wanted to get a hold of you, I mentioned Twitter earlier. What's your Twitter handle?
My Twitter handle is @Zaex, which is spelled ZAEYX.
Okay, right on. Are you going to be giving any talks in the near future? Are you going to be coming over to the Seattle area where we might enjoy a healthy semi-adult beverage or anything like that?
I'm definitely planning on coming over to the Seattle area as soon as I possibly can. And again, that's just contingent upon school.
Right on.
Talks, I don't have any talks planned at the moment. I don't have any talks that I'm scheduled for at the moment. I do plan on giving quite a few as my tools start rolling out here in the near future, but I'll have to update you on that at some point.
Okay. You going to be going to any cons that people might be able to shake your hand at or say hey at?
Again, I don't have a plan just yet about where I'll be going, but I do plan on doing it. So
anything you do has to be on the weekends because during the week you're a mild-mannered student at college.
Yeah.
Okay. I get it. Mr. Betcher, how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to?
As usual, I'm on the Twitterverse @BetcherPwned.
Right on. I am on @Brian Brake, BRYANBRAKE. The official BrakeSec podcast Twitter is @BrakeSec, BRAKE-SEC. We have a Patreon. I'd like to thank all of our Patreon people for supporting the podcast. I don't know why they do, but they love us and they want to give us money, which is cool. We're on TuneIn. That's our new thing. We're on the TuneIn app. So if you enjoy streaming internet audio or radio stations through the TuneIn app on your Windows, Apple, or Android device, you can go search for Breaking Down Security, and you can listen to every podcast we've ever done on there. And that was pretty awesome. I'm glad they did that for us. Our RSS feed is www.breakingsecurity, BRAKEING security.com/RSS. We're on iTunes. I looked at some of our stuff recently. We have roughly a quarter of our entire 90,000 downloads were Apple people, and yet we only have 7 reviews on Apple, on iTunes. So I don't know why that is, but if you do listen to us on iTunes, please leave us a review. I don't think it makes any difference in our ranking, but it's just nice to see some feedback. on a semi-permanent basis. So, Ben, thank you for coming on. You're always I always learn something every time you come on. I'm going to, show this off to the folks at work because I'm sure they will love talking about it as well. And if you have any other new toys, like once you get that Phantom fleshed out, please come back and demo it for us and show us how that works. So that'll be awesome. All right. Thanks, sir. Have a good week. Mr. Betcher, you enjoy your last couple days at your old job, and say goodbye for me because I still know some of those people over there, including Bobby. Well, shout out to Bobby, by the way. And everyone else, have a great week, and we will talk to you very soon.
Bye-bye.